believe that human communication is the most important thing we can do. I shared an Instagram reel this morning that we recorded a few days ago, in which I said the number one skill we can possess as real estate professionals is not our marketing skills. It's not even, I would say, our negotiating skills. Our number one trait we can possess is the ability to communicate with human beings. Cody May said it really well the other day, in which he said, we are not in the property business, we're in the people business. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. The last couple of years, probably more than anything, taught us to lose sight of it because we were all focused on just structuring deals. We actually became better at communicating with other real estate professionals than we even were with clients, because the clients would just issue an order to us and then we would have to go and negotiate with each other to get the deal done. And I believe we lost a little bit of what makes us great in that process, because we were no longer focusing on human communication, client-based human communication, and we started focusing on human communication as it is with agents. A little bit about me. I am a partner in the Joe Taylor Group. We currently operate in 4 or 5 different states. We are involved in about 1,000 transactions a year, everything from properties we list and sell to lead generation stuff for our agents on our teams. We do a lot of transaction management. So we end up doing about 1,000 transactions a year. As I already said, I am a certified guide in the Exactly What to Say program. We have expansion teams in Utah, DC, California, and Georgia, but we are based in Vegas. We have almost 2,000 some odd agents in our network. So these are individuals who have joined Real Broker since we came over, and we have some sort of relationship with them. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, whatever. It's family is the easiest way for me to describe it because it's how I feel about it. Some of you are not in our network. I would consider you my cousins. So it's like either kids and grandkids or cousins, because we are all one big family. It's one thing I love so much about Real is, regardless of network affiliation, Ada, for you or Ezra, you just joined. I'm not sure who your sponsor is or any of that, but it doesn't matter. We're all one big family. Last year, we purchased 75 units that we either flipped, wholesaled, or whatever. This year, our goal is to do 125. I actually think we're going to hit about 150. But in any event, we are very active investors. So if anyone ever wanted to know about the Joe Taylor Group, Joe is in charge of our team and our network growth. Taylor is in charge of our investments and our ancillary products. So title, mortgage, solar, insurance, whatever we get involved in outside of just the traditional purchase and sale of real estate, Taylor takes responsibility for that. Get the book. I like the physical version because you can take notes, but the Audible version is great as well. It's actually authored by Phil. It's read by Phil. He has a British accent, which gives him an advantage over all of us because British people just sound smarter. I wonder if I went to Great Britain, if people would be like, oh my gosh, he sounds so intelligent. I actually think they probably wouldn't. But when he speaks, I'm like, oh, that was wonderful. And it may not even be anything that great that he said, but just the fact that he says it with an English accent, he just sounds smarter. So if you want to listen to the book, the Audible version of the book is amazing as well. Let me share with you something I learned so today's going to be 2 parts. Number 1, exactly what to do before you go to a listing appointment. And number 2, exactly what to say to either get or close when you are get an appointment or close the appointment. So I'm going to talk from Sharon about 2 things. Number 1, what to do before you even go there. And then number 2, what to do and say while you are there. I am obsessed with this quote. I'm not sure about you, but the only greatness I'm ever able to achieve comes out of repetition. I'm not very good at anything I do the first time. My first time playing golf, my first date, my first kiss, my first real estate transaction, nothing was great the first time. That which we persist in doing, Ralph Waldo Emerson says, becomes easier. Not that the nature of it has changed, but our power to do so has increased. So full disclosure, you're not going to listen to this or participate in this training and then just be wonderful at the things that are taught in here. But my advice is if you over and over and over again practice the things that you need to do and say, you will become great. And it's not that the task itself becomes any easier, but your ability to do things becomes so much greater the more time you spend in the work. So that's why I say, like, I am a student of the Exactly What to Say program, because the reality is I'm still practicing. I'm not very good at it. If you need any evidence of that, please reach out to my wife and say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you place Joe as a communicator? And she would say, he's an over communicator that talks too much and he loves to argue. Well, that is exactly opposite of everything that Phil wants to say. And I love it so much. Amali just pointed to herself. She said that's her as well. I need to be a listener. I need to strive to understand. There's a little hack I put on that Instagram video I shared today. I need to learn to let people do 66% of the talking and limit my speaking to 30% of the conversation. As real estate professionals, we're really, really weak at this. When we come up against something we don't understand, we just start talking. The reality is, when we come up against something we don't understand, we should do two things: ask and listen. So we're going to talk about some of that. Well, this training, and I'm going to give you Sharon's notes because he's so much better than me. The training that I'm going to share with you came from Sharon's, he trained us in Atlanta, Georgia, and he trained us on his 100% listing program. And that's not 100% of sales price. That's not 100% of commission earned. It's how to win 100% of your listings. And the first thing he taught me was to prepare before I even go. If you want to win every listing, you need to, number one, be prepared before you even show up. And I don't mean prepare as in run a CMA and get a valuation guess. I mean, you need to do a significant amount of work before you even get there. One of the things you need to do is be a master of here's what happens next. What do I mean by that? You need to be the type of person that in leading up to the listing appointment, they feel like they're being guided. They feel like they're dealing with a professional. They feel like they're dealing with somebody who knows what they're doing, because there's so much insecurity. I don't know if a lot of times we get so far removed. I've been doing this for 23 years. So I forget what it's like to not know this process. And so I forget sometimes that our role as real estate professionals is to be professional real estate tour guides. A tour guide is very different than a taxi cab driver. If you've ever gotten in a taxi, which most of us have, you get in and the taxi driver says, where are you going? Uber has made it a little bit simpler in that you choose where you're going before you even get in the car. But if you've ever had a really great tour guide, you have no agenda. You show up and that tour guide handles the agenda for you. And so you may show up and they may say, Terry, welcome. I'm so excited you decided to come with us on our tour of New York. Here's what happens next. We're going to drive by the Empire State Building, and then we're going to show you Times Square, and then we're going to show you, Central Park, and then we're going to hit the Lower East Side, and then we're going to show you Brooklyn. And you're like, holy crap, like they know what they're doing. Well, here's one hack that I would write down if I were you. One of the ways that you can show your clients that there is a process is by setting up a calendar with automatic invites. So let's pretend that Alan, who just listed a $1.2 million home, let's pretend that Alan has another $1.2 million listing appointment on Saturday. He would be incredibly intelligent to set a calendar invite, send a calendar invite to that client, hopefully both spouses if there's two parties involved. And Sharon says you should have 3 automatic reminders programmed in. Number one, the client should get an immediate calendar invite and reminder. Hey, don't forget, you have a listing appointment with Alan on Saturday morning. They should get another reminder 24 hours ahead of time, and they should get another reminder 4 hours before. You can program all of that in when you set up the calendar appointment with the client. They will feel like Alan is the most organized real estate professional they've ever met. This is only one thing that Sharon says, one of many things Sharon says to do before you show up. And this one thing will help them feel like you are automatically so light years ahead of every other real estate professional they've ever come across, because I promise you, nobody is sending them calendar invitations. I thought that this was brilliant. Number three, the pre-appointment drop off. So think about this. What Sharon says to do is, I should have grabbed one. Take a manila envelope, like a legal notice would come in, and write on it in Sharpie, do not open until our appointment on Saturday, with a business card from Alan stapled to the outside. Now, inside this packet, it doesn't really matter very much what you put in there. However, my advice would be, have your listing packet in there. Like, we've got a standard, like 7-page, who is the Joe Taylor Group? And then also slide into there your CMA. I love RPR. I think RPR does really good CMAs. So do a 6 or 7-page CMA and a 6 or 7-page about you. Put all of that in a manila envelope. Do not open until our appointment, and then drop it off on their doorstep. Don't knock on their door. Just drop it off on their doorstep 2 or 3 days before. So today's Thursday. If I'm Alan and I've got a $1.2 million listing appointment on Saturday, I'm going to drop it off today. Business card, do not open until our appointment. Now, the fun part is, when you show up to your listing appointment, the first thing you're going to do is ask if you guys can sit down and strategize. We're so used to doing the walkthrough. Sharon says, don't do the walkthrough. Show up, meet them, and just say, I want you to walk me around your house, but is there a place we could sit down and strategize first? So when you go and sit down, Sharon says you should do 2 things. Number 1, say, do you have that manila envelope I dropped off? Have them bring it. And then number 2, this is a good one to write down, ZMOT. Ask them the 0 moment of truth question. And here it is. If I'm Alan and I'm meeting with Jim, say, Jim, thank you so much for allowing me to come and talk to you about listing your property. I've done a ton of research. My team and I have put in a ton of work. Let me ask you this, Jim. Are you ready to list your house with me today? Now, that feels so foreign for us as real estate professionals, because we're like, wait a minute, you didn't do the walkthrough. You didn't show them the CMA. You didn't do the here's who we are. You didn't do any of that. So why on earth would you ask a 0 moment of truth question right when you show up? Because it will tell you more about the psyche of that client than anything else. The fact of the matter is, Sharon says, about 30 to 40% of people are going to say, Terry, I'm ready to go right now. And so think of all the hoops you thought you had to jump through, and all the circus you thought you had to put on to get them to list with you. Some of the people Terry goes to are already ready to list with her and decided to do so before she even showed up. So now if Terry says, Jim, are you ready to list with me today? And he goes, you know what? We actually are, Terry. Awesome. Well, let's talk strategy, right? Now, if they go, well, I mean, it depends. What are your rates? What are your whatever? Now, at least you know what you need to cover in that strategy session to win the appointment. So he also says, when they bring that manila envelope, ask them, did you open it? It doesn't matter what they say. If they say, I did, then you're going to go, listen, most people do. If they say, I didn't, you told me not to, you're awesome. Most people don't. In either example, they are most people. So it's like, make them feel comfortable. You know what? Most people do open it, Jim. Don't beat yourself up. Let's talk about what you saw. You know what, Jim? I love it. I'm super obedient myself. And so let's go ahead and open that puppy up. But you're a lot like most of my clients. I'm proud of you for not opening it. It must have been tempting. No matter what they say, they are just like most people. So before we get into the perfect agenda email, pop in the chat, what excites you most? The ability to do what we just talked about, the manila envelope drop off, or the automatic calendar invite. So give me a 2 for the automatic calendar in the chat and a 3 for the manila envelope. What do you think is going to be most easy and most impactful for you to put into your business right away? Number three, the manila envelope. Now it may cost you, 99 cents in the form of an envelope and $2 in the form of gas to get there. So Angela says she already does the email invite, so she needs to do the envelope. I like that. Here's one little hack I came up with. I'm no Sharon, but here's something to think about. If I have sphere of influence, but I don't have listings, let's try this. This one may be worth writing down. I would do the manila envelope drop off to my friends and family that have not indicated a desire to list at all. Now, the only difference, I would put a CMA and I would put a little bit about our team. Now, the only thing I would write on the manila envelope, in addition to the stapling of my business card, is one simple phrase, which is, please don't open till you call me. And I would write my phone number on there. What's the worst case scenario? I promise you, if these are friends of yours, they're all going to call you. And then they're going to call you and say, hey, I've got this stupid thing in front of me. Like, what do I do with this? You're going to go, oh my gosh, open it up. I'm so excited to show you this. And Terry's on the other end of the line and Jim calls her like, Terry, why did you give me this? Jim opens it and in there's a CMA and information about her team. And she says, listen, Jim, here's the truth. I value you. I value your family. And I just wanted to show you what your house is worth. There's so much confusion out there about real estate. So I ran some numbers, showed you what your house was worth, and then gave you a little bit of information about our team. Now, let me ask you this, Jim. Number one, do you have a number in mind that you would sell your home for if I had a client interested in buying it? Because as you know, inventory is an issue. Number two, who do you know that may be thinking of buying or selling that needs the type of service you know that I can provide? The worst case scenario is he's going to go, Terry, I'm not moving, and let me think about it. Now, what happens the next time Jim's playing golf with a guy that's like, man, I tell you what, I think I'm out. I think I'm going to sell. I think the market's going to crash, whatever. He's going to go, oh, you got to call Terry. Like, you already bookmarked in his mind when somebody talks to him about real estate, you got to think Terry. So if I didn't have any listings, here's the truth about our industry, right? You either have business or you have time. It's hard to have both, because when you have a lot of business, you have no time. And when you have a lot of time, that means you have no business. So do the manila envelope drop off when you have business. Do that to like potential listings that are set appointments. But if you don't have business and you have time, I would just pick 20 people you play golf with, or 20 people you go to church with, or 20 people you go to CrossFit with, or whatever. Do that drop off. And then do me this favor. For any of you who take this challenge, please try it and then just shoot me a text. I just want to hear how it works. I'm not in the practice of real estate on the daily basis. The last time I wrote a contract was probably 6 years ago. So I'm not in the day-to-day business of doing these things. For those of you who are still in and are practitioners, I know the manila envelope thing is going to work for people you have listing appointments with. What I would love to hear is, did you do it to your sphere of influence and how did they take it? All right, number 4. I love this one. The perfect agenda email. So before you ever show up for your listing appointment, Sharon says to send this email. And again, I'm going to give you a copy of all of his notes. So don't worry about like jotting all this down. Number one, he just says, the subject is, here's marketing game plan for 123 Main Street. Jim and Sandy, I'm looking forward to seeing you, and I put together a strategy for the sale of your home. So number one, they need to know you have a strategy. Number two, as part of our client process. So number one, they know you have a strategy. Number two, they know you have a process. Number three, your goals. I want to talk about the key things that you would like to have happen, such as overall outcome, goals, and requirements. Number four, our process. Number five, our game plan. So really quick on goals, I want to give you a hack that you can find out what's more important to your potential sellers, time or money, really, really fast. Would this help? Okay. Ask them a question that's related to time. So if I'm Darren, D. Wade kills it in Fresno. If Darren was to say, "Hey, Billy, let me ask you this, bud. What month are we in? May. It's mid-May. How important is it for you to have this home sold by the end of the summer?" Now, you could say, "Hey, Billy, what's more important to you, time or money?" And Billy's going to go, "Both." But if you say, "Billy, how important is it for you to have this place sold by the end of the summertime?" His answer is going to tell you everything you need to know. If he says, "D. Wade, absolutely, I need it sold by the end of the summer because my kids need to be in their new school district by September," that tells you everything, that their timing is more important than the money. Now, if the client says, "To be honest with you, I really don't care when it sells, I just want to get top dollar," then that means the money is the most important. So on that email there, as far as their goals, finding out their time goal versus their money goal will tell you everything you need to know. Now, I used to watch a cartoon. All of you guys are too young for this, but I used to watch a cartoon when I was a kid called G.I. Joe. And at the end of G.I. Joe, there was always this informational video of like, "Hey, Billy, don't stick that firecracker in your mouth and light it off." And at the end, it was like, "Now you know, and knowing is half the battle." I don't know if you remember those cartoons, but they were the greatest. I just want to know what their priority is before I start to take action. Because by knowing their priority, it'll tell me everything. So this perfect agenda email goes into your CRM. You don't want to have to type this out every time. If you notice, there's nothing unique in here. To end it off, he goes, "We just want to give you a good sense of the landscape, how our process fits in, and most importantly, build it around your goals." So look at how many times he talks about process, strategy, and goals. Process, strategy, goals. The last thing he says is, "There's no preparation required on your behalf." Like, think about this. Whenever my wife knows visitors are coming to the house, forget visitors. Every time the cleaning lady comes to our house, the 24 hours that precedes it's a freaking nightmare for all of us. We're like, "I literally hired a cleaning lady. Like, why are you making my life miserable to clean before the cleaning lady comes?" Right? Think about the anxiety your clients have before you come to talk to them about listing their house. So the saying to them, like, "Listen, Jim, Sandy, you don't have to prepare at all. I've got you. You don't have to, the house doesn't have to look perfect. You don't have to clean all the toys. I know you're a busy parent," whatever it is. There's no preparation required. Number five, I have a buyer. Now, most agents do this in a very incorrect way. They send this in postcards or letters. Now, you may send postcards and letters with, "Hey, I have a buyer for your home," and you may get responses. That's good. Let me tell you a way that this could be great. So you have the ability to, if you have a partner, a transaction coordinator, even the broker of your office, you could say, hey, Billy, I'm going to list a listing at 123 Main Street. I ran the numbers in my database and I have like 15 potential buyers that fit into the parameters of this home, but I don't want to tell the home seller that. I'm going to call you on speakerphone with the home seller. And all I want you to do is tell me that we have 15 potential buyers. And then you get in the first 7 minutes of this listing appointment, you sit down. So you got to do the preparation ahead of time. Because if you call Billy, A, he may not answer, and B, he may not be prepared to say what you need him to say. But like, we've got a whole team of agents. We've got an operations manager. We got a transaction coordinator. So our agents can call on anybody. They could even call on each other. And so they're sitting in a listing appointment. Darren may call his wife, who's his business partner, Cam, and he may say, Cam, so you dial on speakerphone, like, you know what? Cam was going to check our database to see how many potential buyers we have for your home. Hold on one second, let me call it. So it rings, she picks up, and he very simply says, hey, Cam, I'm here at 123 Main Street with Billy. Were you able to take a look at our database to see how many potential buyers we have that would fit into this property that are looking for something like this? And Cam would say, oh my gosh, Darren, I looked, we have 20 potential buyers. Okay, thank you. Hangs up. I mean, what does that tell the home seller? Number one, you have a strategy. Number two, you have a plan. Number three, you actually have home buyers. I love this one. This would be a great one. Again, you got to prepare before you go, but I would do this before walking the house with them, talking about price, strategy, anything. I would do this before any of that. Number six, sending the perfect text messages. Now, in the information I'm going to send you, all of this example is there, but Sharon basically says you should send 3 text messages before you even get there. Number one, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. Our team is working on a launch strategy for your home. Number two, hey, our team's working on the launch strategy for your home. Please look over an example of a past launch plan and success story. Or you may say, take a look at some of the reviews of sellers that we've done this for in the past. Send them to Google, Facebook, wherever. And then number 3 is this magic whiteboard. Our team is discussing a launch strategy for your home. Looking forward to sharing it with you at our meeting, and like literally pointing up to a whiteboard with their address and all of that information around it. Now, all of the information around it, you can write in permanent ink. Get a whiteboard that's a throwaway, or at least one that you can leave all this on. Write it in permanent ink, and then in the middle, just change the address. Every time you go to a listing, wipe off the address, put the new address on there. So take a picture of yourself with the whiteboard and say, Jim, Sandy, in the middle is 123 Main Street. Hey, we're doing a strategy session for your home. I cannot wait to share with you what our game plan is for the sale of your property. Send those 3 text messages. Absolute game changer. Okay, so those are some of the many things I learned from Sharon. Now I'm going to encourage you to take 10 seconds, open up your phone, go on to Instagram. All you need to do is this most recent post I did. There's a picture of Sharon, and I put, not all heroes wear capes. I'm grateful for my guy, Sharon Srivatsa, and his 100% listing success program. Want a copy of his presentation? Just comment below. Now, you can comment anything. Sharon will see this. So I would love if you would say something along the lines of, like, I'm excited for the manila envelope, or I'm going to send the perfect texts, or whatever I've shared with you that you've learned. Give him a little bit of love. But by commenting, my Instagram account is going to automatically send you a link to his presentation. So I'm junior varsity, he's professional. So like hearing my thoughts on his presentation versus seeing his presentation yourself, you'll get a copy of it by commenting below. So take 5-10 seconds and do that, and then we'll move on to some of the exactly what to say stuff. Okay, before we move on, I would love to hear in the chat, of those things I shared with you, which one resonated with you the most? So pop in the chat what of all those things that Sharon taught me, which of all of those things resonated with you, or are you the most excited to implement into your business? The buyer call, Gigi, I love it too. I think the buyer call is an absolute game changer. The motivation at the table, I love it. Like, hey, are you ready to list with me? Yep. Finding the seller's motivation. The buyer call, Alan. The text strategy with the photo, I think that one's an absolute game changer. Again, it's all about mentally them going like, dude, this guy's a beast. Like, he doesn't stop. The 3 text and the auto calendar, Brittany, I agree. All right, let's move into some of the exactly what to say stuff. The worst time to think about what you're going to say, Phil taught me, is the moment you were saying it. So if you walk into a listing presentation unprepared, it's not going to go well. So don't get it twisted. You need to know price, you need to know comparative sales, you need to know time frames it's going to take. You don't want to have to make that stuff up on the fly. So no matter, even those who you say, are you ready to list with me, that say, yes, I am, they're still going to want to know, what are we pricing it at? What is your commission? Who else is for sale in our neighborhood as far as competition? So the worst time to think about those things is the very moment you're saying it. So make sure, in addition to all the manila envelope and the text messages and the strategy email and all those things, please make sure you're doing the work before the work, that you're walking in there prepared to be able to share with them in an intelligent way some of the comparative sales, the price you think you need to list it for, how long you think it'll need to be on the market, all of those things. Because if you do all the Sharon work before you show up, and then you botch this part of it while you're there, even the people who say they are ready to list with you may rethink it if you don't know what you're talking about as far as pricing, competition, if you fumble through your commission, all of those things. Number 2, your listing appointment should be a reason discovery session. People will do things for their reasons, not yours. So that's where, when I was talking to D Wade about D Wade, hey, how important is it for you to be sold before the end of the summertime? Would tell me their motivation. It would tell me a little bit about their reasoning. If they go like, I don't care when it sells, I just need my money. Okay, cool. Well, their reason is money. Oh, I need to be sold by September so my kids can go to school. Oh, okay. So their reason is to get their kids into a different school. So the listing appointment is a reason discovery meeting, and you would do well to make sure you realize that your reasons for them selling are irrelevant. What you think about their home's value, what you think about any of those things are irrelevant. You need to make sure that 66% of the talking is done by them. And if you do talk, it is using curiosity to fuel your conversation, asking great questions. Like, you need to be the best question asker that ever existed. So when you go to listing, it's like, I'm going to get into like the process of it, but just realize that if you are not curious about them, then you're using improper fuel for your conversation. There's a difference between curiosity and nosiness. You got to make sure you're curious without being nosy. So ask appropriate questions. Number 4, I'm a control freak. Those of you who know me know this. The reality is, the best way for me to control a conversation is not to talk. It's actually to ask questions. Let me say that again. As a control freak, as a conversational claustrophobe, the way for me to control my environment is not to talk. It's actually to listen. It's to ask questions. So become a really good question asker. I feel confident that I could go with you to any listing presentation and I could build a relationship with the client. And here's how I would build that relationship. I may show up and I may say, Christine, this is a beautiful home. How did you end up here? And Christine's going to have a story. She's going to say, I inherited it from my grandmother, or it's crazy. They were doing an open house and I walked in and I made an offer I didn't think they'd accept and they accepted it. Guys, we've all heard these stories. Our job is to let them tell it. Never take a listing without understanding how the person who owns it came to own it in the first place. So number one, I need to understand their past, and then I need to validate their past. What does that look like? Saying something like, Christine, it sounds like this was a great purchase for you. Good job. Like, it sounds like this was an amazing opportunity. I'm so happy you decided to take it. It sounds like this was a great decision to purchase this home. Now, let me ask you this, Christine. How is this home working for you now? What do you love about it? Now, if I'm not careful, they'll take a turn to negative town, and it's impossible for them to not go to negative town without me being in the car with them. And if I'm with them in negative town, that's not a great idea. So asking them what about their current home doesn't fit their needs takes them into negative land where they go, I hate the this and I hate the that and I hate the this and I hate the that. Well, if I ask Christine, what do you love about your home? And she shares with me the things she loves about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember all those buyers we just called and we got 20 of them. I can't wait to tell them about that because I was curious about the sound at night of the river running behind it. And I'm so happy you said that that's something you love because I think those 20 people that I was talking about, they're going to love it too. So again, I'm validating the decision they made to purchase the home. And now I'm validating the joy that they found in the home. Now I would ask them one very simple question. Well, talk to me about your home of the future. Because obviously you made a great decision with this one. Where are we going next? So that then goes past, present, future. Now, all of this gives me ammunition to be able to utter the phrase that's at the bottom of my screen. The most powerful phrase I can use, which is, Christine, because you said you loved living near this, or because you said 4 bedrooms is just too small, because you said your husband, while you do love his fishing, you don't love him parking his fishing boat in your front yard, I'm going to make sure your next home has X, Y, and Z. Because you said anything, I'm going to recommend everything. So here's the truth. If I can't start a phrase, Alan, by saying, because you said, I don't have the right to say anything. The number one complaint all of our customers have about us is that we don't listen. Think about that. The number one complaint real estate consumers have about real estate practitioners is we don't listen. Well, what in the world happens when I say, Christine, because you said, I'm automatically telling her I'm different than everybody else because I'm listening to you. Well, let's talk about it, the establishment of trust. And then I think we're done. People choose to do business with people that they trust and believe are competent. Now, pop in the chat, do me this one favor. What do you think the difference between trust and competency is? Take a second and think about it. And in the chat, tell me, what's the difference between trust and competency? Trust and competency. I think competency builds trust. I like that, Gigi. I really do. They're very similar. However, just because you're competent doesn't mean you're trustworthy. That is a fact. And just because you're trustworthy doesn't mean that you're competent. One is experience, the other is not. Love it, D. Wade. Well, let me tell you a story. Trust is built in seconds. Competency is over a lifetime, I think. I own a 1967 Ford Bronco. It's fully restored. It's gorgeous. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love driving that thing. I feel a little bit like the guy from Top Gun, Top Gun 2, Goose's son when he gets out of his Bronco. Every time I get out of that thing, I'm a little bit less good-looking version of him, quite a bit older, a lot grayer. My 1967 Ford Bronco is stick shift. My wife doesn't even know how to drive stick shift. My 11-year-old son, Philip, idolizes me. So think about it this way. If I called Philip and said, Philly, the house is on fire, save the Bronco, I'd probably tell him to save the golf clubs because I'd collect insurance on the Bronco. But if I did say, save the Bronco, as an 11-year-old who's never driven anything, I completely trust that he would try to save it. Are you guys good with that? Like, I don't doubt that he would try because he's good intentioned. He loves his dad. He actually loves the Bronco. I trust that he would try to save it. I have zero ability in his competency to actually get it to move at all. He would be so confused with all the moving parts, right? Now, there are a lot of individuals that live in the city of Las Vegas that would be very competent at driving that car. But I don't leave the keys in it because I don't trust them. They would probably steal it if they had the option, right? So there's two different things. Number one, competency believes I believe that you have the ability to do what you're saying you're going to do. But trust means I believe your intentions are pure. I believe you have my best interest at heart. So we can never lose sight of the fact that there is a massive difference between trust and competency. Well, competency, as many of you said, is built over time. Competency is proven with experience. And if somebody doesn't know you, the easiest way for us to establish competency is to show them our record. Reviews on Google, reviews on Zillow, our sales record, whatever it is, builds competency. But what I'm about to show you builds trust. Number one, if I am desiring to build trust in somebody I'm talking to, I'm going to start with curiosity. If I ask them questions about themselves, get them talking about themselves, they're going to feel like I'm a good person. They're going to feel like I'm trying to understand them. And I'm going to gain some certainty around who they are by asking questions about them. If Alan and I spent 15 minutes together, I could get to know him pretty good. Now, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do this way. Now, this isn't just a listing relationship equation. This is a life relationship equation. Like if Christine's married, I'm going to go, Christine, tell me about that. How'd you meet this lucky person? And she's going to tell me the whole story. And I'll be like, well, are you happy? Like, do you feel like this is a good choice, right? Like, and then well, tell me about the future. What are your guys' goals? Whatever. Going through that process is going to help me know them, but it all starts with certainty. So once I gain a little bit of certainty, what it gives me is the ability to empathize with them. Now, Phil Jones gave me a definition of empathy that I will never forget, because prior to hearing Phil say this, I thought empathy meant agreeing with people I don't naturally agree with. That's not empathy. Empathy is caring about the things the person you care about cares about. Digest that for a second. If I care about you, then I'm going to care about what you care about. Now, the fact of the matter is, a lot of the homes we sell, our sellers have desires that we don't necessarily care about or agree with. But if we care about them, we're going to care about what they care about. So I'm going to say, Christine, I've never actually lived by a lake myself, but I know that it's important to you. And I care about that because you care about it. That's the expression of empathy. Not agreeing with people you disagree with. But I think the thing I've learned is if I ever disagree with somebody, I just need to ask them enough questions to understand how they ended up at the decision process they ended up at. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to have some empathy for them because I'm going to care about it because they care about it. I'm not going to care about it because I agree with it. I'm going to care about it because they care about it. Well, this allows me to be relatable or to relate to them. And ultimately, what this gives me is the courage to ask them to take action. So I'm going to be curious. I'm going to then exercise a little bit of empathy, and that empathy is going to give me the courage to encourage them to take action. Guys, these things are so important. In order to succeed in 2023, we have to say and do the right things. That wasn't the case 2 years ago. 2 years ago, in order to succeed in real estate, we need to have a heartbeat. Now, in order to succeed in real estate, we need to say and do the right things. I'm confident if you take action on those little things that Phil Jones has taught us about what to say, and you take action on those little things that Sharon Srivatsa has taught us about what to do, that you can win every single listing you want to win. How do you know if you want to win a listing? You do the work before the work. You show up prepared. You send them an envelope and the 3 texts and the perfect agenda email, and you set them on a calendar. And then when you show up, you ask them about themselves. How did you end up here? It sounds like you made a great decision. What do you love about it? Well, what are you looking for in your next home that will make you love it as much as you love this one? If you don't do that work, you don't want the listing. If you want the listing, you will do the work. Guys, this is a passion of mine. I'm grateful for the opportunity I had to share some of these things with you. Take a second when we're done, if you haven't done so already, to pop onto Instagram, find that Sharon Srivatsa picture, and just give him a shout out. Let him know that you appreciate the work that he put into this. You can also tag Phil Jones. Either way, you're going to get Sharon's slides. Just make sure that they know that you appreciate the work that they put into it. Because again, Phil wrote a book that is now the #1 listened to audiobook on Audible, and real estate agents all across the world are applying the things he taught. Sharon, who happens to be the president of my brokerage, is an absolute wizard when it comes to the things you should do. So that's what I love so much about pairing those two together. Sharon will tell me the things I need to do. Phil will tell me the things I need to say. I am nothing but a student, but I'm excited to be on that journey with you. If you ever want to connect with me, the easiest way to do so is via Instagram at Joe Herrera. I answer my DMs faster than I answer my text messages. So, guys, with that, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you so much for participating in this. I hope you found something of value in this. I'm excited to continue to work on these things together because I believe as we do so, we can collectively grow. Have a great day, guys.